Welcome back, everyone, where today we have got some fairly humongous news because the World of Warcraft core development team appears to be increasing by between 15 and 20% in a fairly major move that has seen Blizzard acquire an entire other studio. Now, this previously sort of happened when Vicarious Visions, another Activision Blizzard studio, was folded into Blizzard and then renamed Blizzard Albany. However, this is an external studio to the Activision Blizzard family, right? So it's actually fairly interesting. Now, on one side of things, you can see some consolidation. You can see, oh, these people were off making their own cool game, and now they're being folded into the World of Warcraft machine. The other side of that is that the thing that they were working on, the game they were working on, which you've actually played a little bit of, while seemingly a really great game, just did not find the audience. So it does seem, I mean, we can't literally say there would be job losses if it wasn't for this, but from what we understand, they assisted Blizzard before this acquisition happened, and while it very much, the writing was on the wall for their own game. So it perhaps seems like this is, in terms of people's jobs and World of Warcraft getting more support, a pretty good option. And it actually turns out, I think, perhaps to some people's surprise, people in the studio they've acquired are big into MMOs.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think people find interesting about Vicarious Visions, because they were like the remaster specialists. So they got the remaster specialists, folded them in and went, go do Diablo 2. And everyone went, hell yeah, this is great. You've remastered. Obviously, people, including me, are still upset about their trajectory been kind of completely taken off, and now those games that they were going to make are gone. But in this case, it seems like they've went, hey, you're the kind of fantasy MMO-y people. They haven't made an MMO, but like they're full of veterans from those shooters. Like, yeah, just go work on World of Warcraft. In the same way that, I mean, Vicarious Visions are working on Blizzard Albany, as they're now called, are working on Diablo 4 stuff as well now. So that's a case of Blizzard went, we don't have the people to keep our key IP afloat. We do not have the capacity to make this at the rate we need to, with the quality we need to, etc., etc. And now they've just basically went for the modern industry option, which is you have a load of people who are already trained to do this. They're not trained to do this specifically, but they're a fully cohesive, functional team. Why build a team when you can buy one?
Yeah, and another side of that is, I've got a few friends who are in the scene in that region. The jobs market apparently right now is insane, because not only Riot are they have Riot money, that's a lot of money, but also a lot of other companies are really trying to hire.
Yeah, all that angel investor money coming in.
Yeah. So it's like the compensations are going up and up and up. I think even this is something that they talked about like over a year ago now, but Blizzard had been upping its offers as well. So I think we just have the situation where it's a highly competitive jobs market. But if you just have the clout, if you have the box to acquire a whole studio like this, I mean, there you go. So today we're going to break that down. I think if you're a World of Warcraft player, this is potentially rather great news. Yeah. And if you are a fan of the game Spellbreak, it certainly is unfortunate news. But it did kind of seem like that game sadly did not have a future. I think it's that situation where it is such a crowded market. It is so hard for these teams to actually get penetration into that market when they're making the sorts of games that, to be sustainable, have got to do extremely, extremely well. As an example, we don't have to do that insanely well to keep our team supported with our game, which you can wishlist on Steam. There, that's our smoothest, our smoothest plug yet. Hey, if you are interested in a narrative role-playing game, a survival setting, then check out what we've got coming out this year. But there is a point in this, and it's there in indie. You can sell like 30,000, 40,000 copies, and it's like, good.
Sweet, yep.
Yeah, you're actually happy. Whereas for a lot of these big teams, the amount of players that they need to get for it to be a sustainable business is so high. And that's why you see a lot of these venture capital-backed companies where I'm not saying this is what's happened with Proletariat, but those, the VCs, they don't expect everything they do to be a winner. They expect probably most of them to be failures, but for their winner to be a real winner. And that's kind of what they're going for. And a lot of those games are games that are, 1,000-hour games, 10,000-hour games, like League of Legends. So it's extremely hard to penetrate into that market. And I think that's really our situation with Proletariat. So before we talk about what this maybe means for World of Warcraft, let's talk about Proletariat and the team that is now being integrated into the World of Warcraft development team. So, Proletariat was founded in 2012 by industry vets from Insomniac, Harmonix, and also Turbine. Turbine, I believe, is Lord of the Rings Online.
I believe so, yes.
And a number of other MMORPGs. They've also got people in their team that have been experienced in Asheron's Call, Lotro, Dungeons & Dragons Online, so that kind of makes sense for Turbine. And their whole thing has been, they've been operating live service games for nearly a decade. Most recently, they put out Spellbreak, which is a cross-platform spellcasting battle royale. And like, that's not the sort of thing that's commonly done, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So basically, they're known for fantasy as a genre. They're known for MMOs in terms of staff, and they're also known for live services. These three things are, of course, all World of Warcraft. Okay, it's not a battle royale, but who knows at this rate. Okay, so their first title was called World Zombination, came out in 2015. Editor's Choice, iOS App Store, got 4+ million players around the world, got Apple's Best of 2015. Basically developed just a reputation for like quality and depth within the mobile landscape. So that's just the sort of thing you and I wouldn't know because we don't normally sort of go, we don't really go into that direction.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. If you can do AAA depth and quality in the mobile landscape, then that will obviously translate to console fairly well. Obviously, you might need this kind of scale problems or for, if you're trying to get super high detailed graphics and stuff, but generally speaking, if you can polish and complete a game, you can do that in any realm.
Yeah, and they've actually done one pretty damn cool thing that I think basically no one's aware of, but it's a pretty awesome idea. So they're also really big into live streaming, and they actually created a role-playing game called Stream Legends.
Oh, they're Stream Legends. Nice.
Yeah, they're Stream Legends. So it's a Twitch extension that lets chat basically make quests and guilds in Twitch chat, do a whole bunch of stuff. So that's actually pretty neat. So they're trying to be innovative, they're trying to be disruptive. Spellbreak, who knows, maybe if we were in a different timeline where it found an audience, it actually would be a really, really, really big game, in the same way that a bunch of people perhaps moved from Overwatch over to Valorant. Maybe you could have seen some of the World of Warcraft PvPers move over to Spellbreak, start to play Spellbreak competitively, then it has a competitive scene, then it's on Twitch, and, all of those things happen. But unfortunately for them, it just didn't happen. And that's why we now get to Blizzard Entertainment.
Yep. And just before we move on, I thought it was very funny that there's ex-Harmonix people in there.
Yeah.
And now they're finally moving back to Activision after all of the drama that underwent Harmonix and Guitar Hero and Rock Band and Activision, and going to Viacom and then having to file a lawsuit against them, and then going to Activision where they're immediately shuttered, and then they go independent again. Christ alive. Being in like that kind of Activision sphere of game development must be really frustrating for some developers. Like, how am I under this company again? Please.
Now, a funny thing here is this involves Blizzard admitting they have fucked up.
Yep, which is rare.
So Jonathan Haidt is the general manager for World of Warcraft, right? He said that their goal was, not only to get the talented team, but a senior leadership team with a lot of experience. As you're probably aware, folks in World of Warcraft have a voracious appetite for content, said Haidt. So here's the deal. That's true, but Blizzard have been serially under-delivering, I think, based on their past. Yeah. I would say that there are types of content in the game where they are misjudging, perhaps. Players care about a little. So a lot of people think back to the Legion expansion. They think back to that initial content cadence, which was a patch every 77 days. They then think about Battle for Azeroth, and they say, okay, so you fucked up all the core game design. You then had to spend the rest of that expansion bolting on systems to try to salvage the whole thing. Then you threw that all in the bin, which they kind of had to. Then you did Shadowlands, where you were completely pig-headed about stuff the community told you was an awful idea in advance. And then Shadowlands completely fucked up in pretty much precisely the way the community told them it would. So what I'd say there, as a response to what Jonathan Haidt has said, he is right. People have got a voracious appetite for content. That's great for Blizzard. It means that if they can keep the content coming, players will keep on paying. But some of this, it's not that the community has got extra voracious. It's that Blizzard has under-delivered recently. I think that's very important. Now, obviously, he's not able to talk about things in that way. He also isn't able to talk about that from an internal perspective because people in his team could maybe see that as them being thrown under the bus, because ultimately it's been their blood, sweat, and tears that has made what has came out. Now, it wasn't good enough, but it doesn't take away from the blood, sweat, and tears, and that's the unfortunate thing where it's a very common thing. There's a difference between efficiency and effectiveness.
Yeah.
They could be highly efficient at making ineffective content, as in stuff that players just aren't resonating with, right? So there's a lot of issues, but certainly it does seem that their ability to just make content and put it in the game is not particularly high.
Yeah, well, now they're going to go the Activision model of, we need more bodies to make more game.
Yeah.
And it seems that was kind of part of the whole rejuvenation of Blizzard and Warcraft, where they kind of realized things were really, really bad towards the end of last year. Seems to be where this all kicked off.
Yeah, because what he said here is, and what we've seen over the last year is that we need to increase the amount of content that we can create and the frequency with which we're putting it in the hands of our players. That's absolutely true, and absolutely M&A is one way to make that happen, getting a larger development team. There's a bit of me that would also say you could probably do that if you took less risky bets and try to think of more production-friendly forms of content that could get out to players that could perhaps be somewhat divorced from the humongous patch, from having to be in a big monolithic patch, because that's actually a development, sort of set of ideas that first came up in the Legion expansion. I believe they talked about it in WoD as well. They essentially talked about the idea of okay, well, what if we've got all this world content ready, but the raid isn't done yet? Surely we should give people the world content, and then maybe 2.5 months later, the raid will come out. And through the Legion expansion, that actually kept players engaged. What we've had here since the Battle for Azeroth expansion is Blizzard changing the player-facing development notion of the game, where now World of Warcraft is a seasonal game with big seasonal updates. And that kind of means that because it's tied into the seasons, whenever the raid comes out, that has to be the start of the season. But then, any of the world content that they put in that ties into that raid, if it comes out before the raid, then in terms of itemization and all of that stuff, it ends up being really hard. And this is one of the big reasons why it's a massive mistake to turn your vibrant MMORPG into a seasonal loot progression game. Whoever made that call, I really don't think it was the one. But
yeah, that's the thing where I think it's interesting, because I obviously then just said, they're looking for bodies for content, but they're also looking for a senior leadership team for a lot of experience. And obviously they shopped around looking for different people, but then they went to the MMO specialists, which kind of implies...
You think that'd be them?
Yeah, you would hope so, right? You would hope so. So I think that says that they're kind of aware that they maybe need to kind of not just bring in bodies to do what the current leadership are doing, and not to say they're trying to oust the leadership or something, just we maybe do need assistance at the top instead of just more bodies.
I don't mean this to be overly brutal or anything like that. I would say that they currently have a leadership team and structure that, they're honers.
Yeah.
I don't think they're visionaries, because I haven't seen anything in World of Warcraft in the last few expansions that's kind of made me think, whoa, they have vision.
Yeah, they're not innovators, they're just...
Yeah, instead it's been, they've borrowed from these games. And that's always been the Blizzard way, but I mean specifically the sort of ARPG-ification of World of Warcraft, which of course hasn't worked, because ARPGs are very, very fast-paced, whereas World of Warcraft is quite slow-paced. So what they've essentially made is an ARPG loot, or inspired progression system that is then slowed down to the pace of an MMO, meaning that it's not particularly satisfying, and that the things that are actually quite a fantastic strength in the ARPG genre, like the randomness and the craziness, those actually end up being a weakness whenever you stretch them out too much. Of course, you would have thought the Blizzard would have learnt this lesson from their own action RPG Diablo 3, which very notably had an ARPG loot system that was far too stingy and slow, and was then notably fixed by going significantly faster. Loot 2.0, Reaper of Souls. I guess they didn't get the memo, or perhaps sort of the deep thinks in this. You know what? I'm sure the deep thinks have happened. I know there's plenty of dissenting opinion within that team. It's just, obviously where things went. And I suppose when you think about a leadership team, Height actually talking about senior leadership with a lot of experience, that maybe suggests to us this, we need a shot of new blood. We need some spice in here. And it's quite funny because when I actually look at Dragonflight, as much as I have just said everything that I just said, the one thing that I do like about Dragonflight is that it seems conservative in a way. In that they've just realized, back to basics, build our foundations. Because, of course, if you're going to be a crazy big visionary and do wild things, you do have to shore up your foundations first. So I at least like that the Warcraft team has moved in that direction. So there you go. Now, overall, the WoW team has been expanding anyway. I believe it was a tweet to Brian Helinka, who is at least one of the leadership figures in the PvP team, and I think he posted some job listings.
He did, yeah.
And a Twitter user responded to him saying, are these replacing people that have left? Because obviously Blizzard has had quite a significant turnover rate. I think you certainly saw that when you were going through the credits of Shadowlands.
Oh yeah, it was really fun just going through and taking out names, going, oh yeah, I remember seeing that person's quitting tweet. Oh, and that one. Oh, and that one. Oh, I know what studio they're in.
Chris Kalecki.
Yeah,
Where'd he go? Kalecki. What happened?
Yeah, there's David Kim as well. So I was like, oh yeah, David Kim, they're away too.
Chris and Dave, they're gone. Why did Path of Ascension stop getting development? Jeez, I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder.
From what I understand, it was Chris who led Path of Ascension, and then he goes and basically nobody comes to fix it, which is kind of sad because Path of Ascension, in some ways, is a total banger. It's just literally not fucking finished, and it never was.
Yeah.
But anyway, Brian responded to this tweet saying, it's expansion. Right? And we've actually seen them in some interviews talk about how they don't have major PvP content plans in the cards for Dragonflight, but that they are expanding the size of the PvP team so that they can kind of get more of that in the future, which I think is going to be a really good thing for a lot of players to hear. And perhaps too, I mean, certainly this was a battle royale in the fantasy genre. It's going to be experienced PvP, class designers, level designers, etc., as a part of this acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the actual because we actually were lucky enough because Proletariat listed their entire team, we were able to break down their team.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's literally you go to their team page on the website, and you think, oh, that's a lot of people. That must be they must have a lot of kind of flat structure, and there's a lot of leaders. No, because all of the reporting said 100 people, literally 100 people reported on the site. So we assume that's everyone. So it's quite nice there. We get to look and see which of the categories are which. And obviously Blizzard and Shadowlands has about 500 people working on it. There's a lot of other Battle.net people and creative dev and stuff like that. But in terms of core game development, it's these 500 people. And so much of that is art, so much of that is game design, so much that's engineering. And that's kind of what they're getting the most of out of Proletariat here. They're getting an extra 20 engineering people. They're getting another 22 art people. And that is you look at 20% overall, that is a 20% improvement on the amount of artists you've got available. And that includes a couple of senior people.
It's just over a fifth more engineers.
Yeah, same with engineers. And then the game design's a little bit less, but that's the thing where that's a bit of a stuffed category because it's game designers and level designers. So it's a little bit difficult to see.
Well,
but then you're getting seniors in.
Here's a great example. The latest arena map that was supposed to come in the most recent patch for World of Warcraft, it was supposed to have this feature where players could basically change these obelisks. So that would change the lines of sight, and it would be a more dynamic sort of gameplay element in this PvP arena. But actually, for technical reasons, they had to ship a version of it that was static and didn't have that interaction. Now, they were obviously pissed about this, but and I'm sure they could have solved that problem, but ultimately, maybe their engineers need to make mechanics for the dragon riding system, the new expansion. So having an expansion in the engineering side is a really, really fantastic thing, especially for a game like World of Warcraft, where certainly the game does suffer from, I would categorize it as a Blizzard Entertainment that was really looking to the next big thing when WoW was at its height. Because when WoW was at its height, they did not do the expansions. They didn't do those things until too late. I think they were a bit too focused on the likes of Titan, because Titan was always supposed to be the thing after WoW, then turns into Overwatch, of course, which basically is just a long way of saying it seems like they're finally making essential investments that they really should have made in the past.
Yep.
That doesn't take away how it's good that they've made them now. And there's another really strong thing here, and this is something I think something Connor picked up when he was researching the story for us. This is an East Coast office. Now, Vicarious Visions is an East Coast office.
Yeah, Albany,
but
yeah.
there's no WoW people that we know of in Vicarious Visions, or Blizzard Albany. Whereas now Proletariat, well, they have an office in Boston. Now, the thing is, sure, there's probably a lot of like work from home and stuff like that going on, but it does mean that East Coast game workers who don't want to move to South California, they can now hire World of Warcraft talent in the East Coast to work in the East Coast. And you look, for many reasons, somebody might just not want to move to SoCal. Simple as that. Maybe they don't want the lifestyle. They don't like the heat. It could be anything, really. But this is good for their ability to attract talent, I would say.
And it also helps because this is a very, very basic, literally just cost of living calculator. Irvine's but 18% more expensive across the whole board. So you can get the same amount of work for 18% less. Obviously, that's not literally true, but that's the kind of thing to be looking at. Of, oh, we have a satellite office. Oh, we can hire from Boston now. Oh, that saves us money. That gets us access to new talent.
Yeah. And
this would have been a dangerous move before, right? Because this would be one of the first times Blizzard... Well, I mean, except for Blizzard North, that was 400 million years ago now, so let's not think about that. They were the people who made Diablo back in the day, but there's this whole like thing of Vicarious Visions was the proof that remote working satellite office is going to work. Obviously, it worked specifically for, hey, you guys go do Diablo 2 Remastered, and then we'll touch base every now and again. You can have some of our assets and a couple of liaisons. But now they're working on Diablo 4 with them. They must have went, at some point over the last year, this will work. We can do this. We can actually get people from somewhere else to work with us. Oh, we've got so much power now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing.
Well, I'll get on to another reason why this is kind of important in a sec. So I think we've already went over this data on the size of the teams. At the very least, if you wondered how many people it took to ship Shadowlands, like that's the total WoW staff. But I mean, obviously not including support and a few other things. When I say support, I mean different to the support that we've noted down here.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, so it's like the team has grown by a fifth, but also we have continually seen Blizzard hiring. One great example is that one of the key new features in the new WoW expansion is a humongous revamp of professions in the game. To be honest, they have some really good ideas, some really good design goals, but we continually saw job listings that mentioned professions.
Yeah.
So while there has been a lot of attrition, even without this acquisition, they had been growing the total size of this team. I think it's worth thinking about that. Now, as for just what the leader of Proletariat said, the really exciting part is that what we're going to build going forward. That's the real selling point, the level of ambition for what we want to do with World of Warcraft. Yeah, I mean, there's new blood. They've worked at that smaller, more fucking rough and ready scale, right? So I think that they could be a good injection of energy in there. And I think also kind of importantly, and I mean this is a true asset, they're a team that has seen real failure in spite of good design.
Yeah.
I think that is humbling. I think that teaches so many lessons. Right? Like the game we're doing right now, only possible because of the failures we've made. That's why we can do this game on time and on budget. But that would not have happened if it was not for our failure. So it's this kind of thing, like, if you always have continued financial success and you're not really listening to your player base that deeply, which, WoW team, I think you're doing that so much more right now, but I think we can all agree, didn't happen. Didn't happen for BFA and Shadowlands, right? Like, we just have to admit that.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it
you
like
look at Proletariat,
yeah.
Numbers for their game went down, so they're going to be humbled. And I don't mean that in a punitive way. I mean that in it's genuinely it's the best way to learn. One of the best ways to learn and to really feel that learning, for it to be shunted deep into your brain.
Yeah, because I think there's a whole big thing about how humans don't actually learn, like, important lessons. Like, logically, they learn them emotionally. And that's the kind of thing you're going to get there. That's what Blizzard have done as well, and that's why they're doing this weird thing now, where this whole entity was like, no, we're fine, we're Blizzard. And now they've been effectively kicked in the teeth. I went, oh, fuck, actually, we need to wake up here. And then they've went and hired what could be effectively seen as a crack team of people with more experience than they ever had in the real world. I mean, isn't true because they are shipping products at Blizzard. It's just in a little bit of a bubble because they're so big. So it is very interesting to see what they ultimately bring. And I think the one thing to remember is that the CEO and the team at Proletariat, they're not like robots that are being just like, oh, yes, we have bought you, we've hostile taken over you, we've bought you. They're actually going, oh, you want us to work in World of Warcraft? Fuck it, yeah, let's go. You've sold us on the concept of working for you. Let's do it.
Yeah, they are people with an interest in fantasy MMOs.
Yeah. And I'm sure, honestly, someone maybe went to them with maybe a similar offer, a higher offer, because devs are important. Devs are what you want right now. So
yeah, I think almost certainly this is a case where, you know, they were probably looking for suitors.
Yep, for sure.
And it seems they were working with Blizzard a little bit before this went, and if they had a good experience working with Blizzard, the offer's right, that's what the team wants. Yeah, I mean, who else is kind of out there doing a big MMO that we know about? Like, there's the Blizzard MMO.
No one proven in the West.
There's the Riot MMO that, you know, Ghostcrawler's leading. It's not like ESO needs a bunch of new staff, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. Now, the other side, of course, is Spellbreak, because I think if we learn a bit about Spellbreak, we can kind of learn some more of the people who are going to be working on World of Warcraft, and are potentially even right now. So, imagine basically Naraka Blade Point, but it's fantasy.
Yeah, the battle royale with ninjas, but instead of ninjas, it's wizards. And that's with the elemental combinations, that's with levitation, that's with amulets and mana and armor and magic armor, stuff like that. It is a very, like, you look at it and you think you've kind of clocked it immediately, but then you play it, you're like, oh, okay, I see what you've done a little differently here. I see what you've done well here. I see what you've done not so well. And I played, you know, to be honest, I played one game of it yesterday for the purpose of kind of understanding, and then I won it, and I was like, might as well retire undefeated. Yeah. So I did that, and I was like, okay, I can see what's kind of nice about this game. I can see a couple of flaws it has in terms of implementation, and like they seem to have maybe thrown together it a bit quick, and have like core mechanical like issues of like, you know, when you play a game and they clearly went to make content before they polished up all their core like physics and stuff, especially in an Unreal Engine game, you kind of go, oh, this feels a lot of like Unreal Engine default physics with some tweaks, as opposed to something like Overwatch, which is like meticulously built from the ground up. So it has a couple of things like that, but it has like the art style that you immediately see, oh yeah, this would work with a World of Warcraftification to it. Absolutely perfectly. And it's got all of like the small design choices of basically the Blizzard special of, hey, I know what this is, but this feels good. It's not new, but it's just transformational enough where it matters. And that was the old Blizzard specialty, so they're capable of kind of doing that. And it's honestly, I had a great time with it in my first game.
And ultimately, the problem though is the market is extremely crowded. Like, look at this. They even said this is from their post announcing the closure of the game. Was the first game ever released fully cross-platform with cross-play on day one across PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Over 10 million players dropped in. But he ends up saying ultimately, there's a lot of competition in the area. We just couldn't get the escape velocity necessary for us to continue to expand it.
Yep.
Which is really sad.
Yeah, so I think that's I think why it makes sense for Blizzard to kind of, because obviously, you know, now there's people who like Spellbreak could go, Blizzard killed Spellbreak to eat the studio up, the bastards. And I don't know if that's completely fair, because I feel like Spellbreak wasn't going anywhere regardless without a massive injection that wasn't going to be worth it.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe in the future there's room for them to kind of go, oh hey, you've helped us on Dragonflight.
Just rename it, dude. Just call it Warcraft. Warcraft Ring of Honor. Done.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. But there's a whole reason, and I'll maybe talk about this in a future video, because I think it's an interesting topic. But it isn't Warcraft. It's fantasy, but it isn't Warcraft in ways that are very subtle. I mean, not really that subtle. Isn't fucking orcs, but you know, in ways that I think people kind of understands a bit different. But there's something about it that was just promising enough, and the fact they talked about how they shipped it on everything, to me kind of goes, oh yeah, these are veteran developers, because an indie team who have never made a game before could probably get something of similar quality. It would take a lot longer and it wouldn't be as good, but they wouldn't be able to ship it on all consoles on day one and go, yep, no problems, works, sweet. I think that's the expertise you're paying for, and that's the expertise you want in a studio.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So basically, that's the situation.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft development team has got bigger. Blizzard is now more readily able to hire talent in the East Coast without having to, I suppose, foot the bill for relocation or, lose people who don't want to relocate.
Yeah.
If they don't want to do a sort of remote-only job post. And that's it. Now, what will be challenging here is it will take some time to get people up to speed. So a lot of their artists will have to ensure that they are in line with the WoW style. That said, we don't think that would be a particularly major issue. Their designers. Well, I hope they love scripting in Lua.
Yep.
But I doubt that's going to be a problem for them, right? That's going to be easy to adjust to. But, they'll have to learn a new editor, be onboarded to a new team, beyond, all of that stuff. So I would not expect this to be the most impactful thing in the universe for the launch of Dragonflight.
But for 10.1.
For 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, does this mean that they will be more able to produce patch content? And I think, importantly, give the players nice-to-haves. Because it's just like we get a new version of the Timeless Isles and a raid. Maybe the PvPers will get a drip of booty sweat.
Maybe.
Right, because PvPers get so little. If the team's larger, who knows? Maybe not everything has to be a rehash of the Timeless Isle. Maybe it can be a bit different. Maybe we could get quest lines back in Azeroth. Or just nice little things to have. In the same way that Hildebrand is not tied into the core of FF14's current story. You didn't need to do Tataru's Grand Adventure, or Grand Endeavor, but you can. You didn't need to do Omega Beyond the Rift, but you can, and it was really good. Right? One of the biggest things about World of Warcraft that I think a lot of players have noticed is missed opportunities. There have been... It would take another half an hour of recording to go through all of the narrative missed opportunities of just Shadowlands alone, and honestly, that would be doing the quick version. A really easy example is, you might remember, because I know not everybody here plays WoW, but you might remember the Tauren from Warcraft 3.
My favorite race.
The son of Karn, who was like the leader of the Tauren in War 3, Bane, right? So he's going to the Shadowlands. We're teased that he's going to learn like an essential truth of his people. And this is really big because his people, a part of their religion is the Earth Mother, who actually ends up being Azeroth. So it's the sort of thing where there'd be some crazy shit for him to find out.
So much depth, so much richness capable in that storytelling.
Yeah.
And that, like, in the world building of this world that people have enjoyed since the 90s.
Yeah, it's like the thing that you thought was Musha, the Earth Mother, is actually a Titan thingy at the middle of your planet. And, whenever your father died, and because I think he was able to commune with his father's spirit a few times, at least in the books, it's like that's a thing that, per the modern lore, has to happen via the Shadowlands. So Bane goes to the Shadowlands. Does he learn anything of his people, as was initially teased? No. Does he have any interaction involving his father? No. Does he try to have any interaction involving his father or working any of this out? No. Does he spend most of the expansion sitting down in a city, doing shit all? Yes.
Well, to be fair, every now and again, which probably makes up a substantial portion of his time, he does scratch his ass in his idle animation.
That's
content.
That's pretty much all that he did. Now, that is a major faction leader with a storyline that was obviously being set up that was not followed through on. You could even talk about so much of Sylvanas, even in the Legion expansion, where it seems they, for some reason, 180'd your story. Who knows? Maybe Alex Afrasabi was completely losing his marbles by that point. I think probably likely. But there's just so many missed opportunities and things where it's just a real head-scratcher as to why they didn't do the thing. And it's either they have the resources and are just completely incompetent somehow, or they don't have the resources. And I'm beginning to think they don't have the resources. Because if you think about what it's going to take to, build an entire expansion and all of its patches, which unfortunately they made hard mode for themselves by throwing so many random systems in that players generally have hated, while also making the next expansion. That's actually going to require a lot of developers. Now, you think about Warzone. You need a map, you need guns, you need balance, you need less bugs.
Easy.
700 million developers. So I wonder if there's just something to that. They just didn't have the team. Blizzard didn't invest enough. Blizzard didn't feel they needed to because WoW was doing really good anyway. They didn't have the pressure. And for the longest time, they offered pathetic compensation. People would make a horizontal move in seniority, maybe even a slightly vertical move in seniority over to Riot, and they'd nearly double their compensation. Blizzard were starving themselves. It's honestly total madness. But anyway, you could say that the era is changing a little bit. Multiple different ways. We can see the new expansion is going in a significantly better design direction. Obviously needs to be confirmed by the alpha and the beta. But it does look good. They are saying good things, making good sounds. Their basic idea for the new talent system is really good. What they're doing for professions is really good. Dragon riding is them actually trying to put some fun in the game. Like actual game fun, not just number go up RPG stuff.
Something they haven't thought about in about 10 years.
Yeah,
About
so,
8 years.
so
maybe.
that's great. We're seeing people in the PvP team basically say, look, sorry, we won't have stuff for launch, but we really do want to do more. So we're continually hearing these good things. We're seeing them with their job listings, and now we see they increase their development team size by 20%. Okay, sounds pretty good to me. So that essentially is the story of Blizzard acquiring the Proletariat.
Absolutely. In what might be their craziest, smartest move they've made in many, many, many years.
Yeah.
About
so
fucking time.
This was a major surprise when we saw the news break yesterday, and I think we're both quite pleased about it. So that's it for us. Let me know what you think. Of course, if you want to check out the game that we're making, which is very different from anything that these guys make, then you can check out The Pale Beyond via the link down below. If you are interested in, in a narrative RPG with an overall survival theme, then, you could wish list if you think it's something you'd be interested in. So, thanks for watching. And, wow. We'll see how this one goes. See you later.